Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Mindset and Muscle podcast. I'm your host, Keshi, and today I'm going to be interviewing the lovely Kendall Garness. So, she is a personal trainer. I'm going to give a little bit more of an intro when we get into it, when I'm talking with her, but she's a personal trainer, a mom, so she knows everything that there is to know about being busy and getting things done. So, that's exactly what we're going to talk about today, getting things done while you're super busy, how to manage everything. We also talk about discipline versus motivation. We delve a little bit into protein too, because I feel like it always comes up one way or another. And then we just finish off with talking about your support network and how it's important to have some sort of support or what to do if you don't have it. So, lots of different things that we delved into. So, let's get right into it, and I hope you enjoy. Okay. So, take two of this podcast. You know what? If the other one, if I can have some data from it or just like some part of it that just shows me being super laggy, that would also be funny. So maybe I might put a little bit of that at first. I'll see. But we tried to record the first 5 minutes and then I was just frozen. So that would have been a very interesting podcast. So, but thanks for letting me know. Hopefully this one is better. But we'll start from the start. So Kendall's a new mom and a personal trainer. So she and her husband and a baby moved to Florida from Ohio. And now you're trying to juggle again, kind of lots of new things happening and lots of just, I would say, like full-time things on themselves, in and of themselves, and kind of like very time-consuming jobs of being a new mom and of being a personal trainer, aka
Yeah.
an online trainer, having your own business. So we really want to talk about that today, but did I miss anything about you first for people to get to know you?
No, just you said I'm a online trainer, which I am. I typically help nurses specifically, help them lose 10 to 20 pounds in, 3 months, 6 months, a year, depending on how much. And that's what I do.
Okay, perfect. Well, welcome to the podcast again. Another,
Thanks.
it's our first time on here just because it's the second take. But anyway, so because again, you work with nurses and I'm like, you are the best person to really be working with them because they're usually when I've been talking to nurses or even people in nursing school, their biggest struggle is that their schedule is packed. Like they work long
Yeah.
hours, sometimes like different hours to like night shifts and things like that. So they really don't have the time or energy for a lot of things. They're like, they feel like they're overwhelmed. They're like the definition of busy. But you also are, again, with the two things that I mentioned. So again, you're the best person to really be talking about that. And that's exactly why we wanted to make this podcast episode today to, I guess, give some insight on how you do it. So, just to start off, how do you manage everything right now?
Yeah. Well, like I was saying before, I am like not the spokesperson for like busy people, right? Like you're busy, I'm busy, everybody's busy, and I don't mean that like crudely, just everybody is busy. And so I can only speak for myself. I can't speak how other people should or should not manage their lives. I think for me, some of the biggest things have been I've had to do away with the all or nothing mindset, right? Like in the profession or perfectionist mindset. Because with those things take up a lot of time and a lot of energy, and I kind of have those resources allocated. I think the third and probably biggest thing, absolutely the biggest thing, would be having the support system around you.
Oh, okay. There's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
So you said the all nothing mindset, the perfectionist mindset. You mentioned allocating your resources and then the support system. I really should have like a notepad that I like write notes when people are speaking. So I'm like, don't forget to ask that. But we'll start with the first one, the all nothing mindset. Tell us a little bit more what even it is. Some people might not know exactly what it is, and also why, I guess, like you think that's like so easy for people to just not spiral into it, but I feel like it's very much present in a lot of people's lives, and then
Yeah.
how you overcome it in your life.
Yeah, so the all or nothing mindset is when somebody says, "Oh, I'm going to do like this whole thing, right? I'm going to do let's take workout for example, since that's our field. I'm going to do this entire hour-long workout, and if I can't do it, then I'm not doing it at all because it's just a bust, right?" Um, and with me personally, my workouts now, sometimes they are 10 minutes, and I mean being very literal 10 minutes, and it's a couple sets of whatever, and like that's what I got. And you have to be okay with that, right? You have to, maybe that's just what you got for that day, right? And that's okay. You need small sustainable changes and small sustainable things to make them consistent. So that's what I mean by that.
Absolutely. And is that when you mentioned that and the perfectionist mindset, are those two different things? Are they the same thing? Are they more like related? What do you again in your life, would you say there are some things that you would have an all nothing mindset and other things you would want to be a perfectionist at, but it's not all nothing?
Um, oh, that's a good question. The first thing when you asked that, the first thing I thought of was my house, like because I like my house clean,
Mm, yeah.
right? And like I don't know if how your place is, but there's certainly things that are out of place at my house. Um, but it's clean. There might be some messy spots, but it's clean,
Yeah.
right? And I think of some days I am like, okay, I'm going to vacuum and mop, and like that's what I'm going to do today. And then I only vacuum that day, and that's okay. And I guess they do go hand in hand because the house isn't perfect,
Yeah.
but it's still clean, and I still, did something to clean it, right?
Yeah.
Um,
I definitely think they kind of like even if they're not like the same thing. I'm not entirely sure myself. I was just wanted to get your idea on that one, but um I do think they're related for sure. And when you talk about like workouts, that's a big thing that people are like, I don't have time to work out. Do
no,
you like not have like any time at all? Like again, like you mentioned you do like 10 minutes at home probably.
right,
So, or when people say I don't have time to eat healthy, like is like, what are you really, sometimes it's good to really unpack what they mean and kind of they might, what they're saying, and what we're understanding might not be exactly the same thing. Because for them, then I want to ask, like, what do you mean you don't have time to eat clean? Like you have to eat anyway, right? But
right.
then, like, did you come across maybe clients that have like this all or nothing mindset, I would say?
Yeah, yeah. And I think one of the biggest changes that we had to make at first was recognizing like just kind of shifting the mindset as opposed to I need to stop eating this junk food, quote unquote.
Mm.
And instead of like focusing on not having that and just like, okay, like I cannot have ice cream tonight. I can't have ice cream tonight. But like, and just pounding that, it's what can I have? Like, what can I add to tonight? Like, what can I add to my diet, right? Like, that's one of the things that I really focus on at least is okay, I will never tell a client that they can't have some sort of food, but I will always talk about what we can add. So, for example, let's say a client's like lower on protein or something, and they want to have pizza. Well, by all means, if you can fit it in there and your macros go, by all means, and they're low on protein. So, can you add? I like buffalo chicken pizza personally. I don't know about you.
Oh,
I'm a big buffalo chicken girl.
I don't
Um,
think I've tried it.
oh, oh, you gotta, yeah.
Yeah, I like chicken pizza, but I don't think
Yeah.
I've tried buffalo chicken. But anyway, sorry, I'm
Oh,
ordering
no,
my
you're
pizza
fine.
on the side here.
Yeah, right. Um, so sometimes if I had like grilled chicken or something in the fridge, I'll add more chicken to that pizza. Um, but I didn't take away anything, right? I still got the pizza I wanted, but I added protein to it. And because I'm getting fuller from that, I'm probably going to have less of the other stuff, right? And to go along with my ice cream example, just because I said that, one thing that I started doing, because I have a pretty good sweet tooth, right? I mean, like I can crush some ice cream. And um, so one thing that I started doing was I'll take like because I usually have like one or two scoops. So what I started doing is taking one scoop of ice cream and then one half cup of fresh fruit or frozen fruit. and mixing it and putting it together. So now I just cut my calories essentially in maybe in half even,
Yep.
and I'm still getting what I want, and it's not as many calories, right?
Yeah, I love this. The example, or not even the example, but like the way of thinking of adding instead of subtracting from your diet is such a big thing. And people might not understand because they might be like, well, if you're adding things, if you're talking about calories, well, you just have more. But what
Right.
happens often is that when you're adding the things that's why also having a coach is important because they can kind of guide you in that. For example, when you're adding protein, and I'll let you talk about that in a minute, why adding protein will make us want to eat less of something else. But I also do that all the time. I haven't been doing it when I order pizza, but I think that's a great idea. I just got like chicken from Costco and it tastes really good. So I'm like, that would go perfectly like on top of like a pizza that I buy. But usually
Yeah.
when I make like homemade pizza, then I pack it with chicken like so much that I eat a lot less when I'm making homemade pizza than when I get just a regular pizza.
Well,
Um,
not to mention when you make it at home, you're obviously learning how to cook it, but you're automatically saving yourself calories there and fat and whatever else, because you're not using. I can almost guarantee you're not using as much oil or anything else that they are, right? And it's delicious. Don't get me wrong. Like,
Yeah, and it's great from time to time. I just love myself a good like Papa John's pizza, like Blaze pizza, whatever. I don't know if you guys have Blaze pizza, but
no. Oh,
no.
we did in
Yeah.
Ohio. Yeah, we did in Ohio.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
But so that's great, but then again, like because I don't want those things like multiple times a week, sometimes I just like make a fake away pizza with like the naan. I do that like almost every week. So like that would still kind of if I have like a little bit of craving, it still works. But then or I can just wait for date night and just have that for the week for like my kind of like, okay, that's okay. I'm gonna my I want to untrack meal that I give myself sometimes or something. But that's such a good example. Or even if you don't want to add, like for example, if I like chocolate ice cream or like cookie dough ice cream or whatever, I don't know if that's a thing. And I don't want to
yeah,
add fruit on it, then you don't have to like mix it in that thing. You can just have the
no,
fruit separately or have something else separately. And that would still like reduce your calories by quite a bit and make you more
absolutely.
full. Like we could eat I eat like a whole bar of like chocolate or like so much ice cream and still be as hungry as before I was eating it. So
Right.
definitely like
But
then you'll need a whole meal.
yeah, exactly. And just kind of add to the ice cream point, I know you've been really big on the creamies, right? You've been
Yeah,
liking
that too.
those? Yeah.
Yeah, because then this one, I literally just make ice cream from like protein shakes. So that's just first of all
Awesome.
super convenient. But also it's like really yummy and like I actually enjoy it. And like it's not gonna be the same as a Ben and Jerry's, don't get me wrong, but it's gonna be like it could be some of them. I think we were talking about that. Some of them don't turn out great.
Yeah.
But when they do and you kind of stick with those, it's just kind of like you're sticking with one or two flavors of ice cream that you really like, or just base like other recipes in general. So that's another option, just like having little alternatives, but just going back to why adding protein or adding some things in your diet instead of removing, why basically sometimes we just ask our clients to add things and not remove, when at the end of the day, what we want is for them to be in a calorie deficit. And if they were in a calorie surplus before, that sounds a little counterintuitive.
Yeah. Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Um, well, I guess I'll address the mindset part of it first. I listen to a lot of podcasts myself, and I can't even remember which podcast said this, but somebody said that you can't hate yourself into shape, and you can't restrict yourself into shape.
Yeah.
Um, well, I kind of made up that second part, but went hand in hand. Um, but they said you can't hate yourself into shape. And I was just like, wow, like that really, it really like resonated with me because a lot of people, um, like they don't like how they feel and then they try to make some change and then it doesn't, always go well because they don't like themselves or they don't think that they like themselves. Um, as far as wanting to add more, uh, it's far less restrictive and it's much more freeing, right? So we want to add protein, something with a higher satiating level,
Hmm.
right? So we're not just carb loading instead.
Okay,
If that
tell me
makes
more about those kind of in layman terms, like even like satiating level. Like what do you mean? Like why would like some people don't know that like protein actually is the most like satiating, I guess, of um is it the most or is it fat? But fat has more calories, but is
that
like
has more.
very much more satiating than, for example, carbs are. And it's the best option in terms of like hunger levels when it comes to
Mhm.
the macronutrients.
Yeah, so the satiating level just refers to how full you feel after you eat it. If you ever eat like a very like carb dense meal and then an hour later you're hungry, like example, I'm sure like as soon as I said that, somebody listening to this said, "Oh, cereal," and that's like a really good
Mm,
example, right?
yeah.
Like how many times have you ate a bowl of cereal and an hour later you were like, I need my second breakfast, like
Yeah, not even an hour later.
right,
Like
right,
I'm not even full from that.
right, right.
Something that and that's also about adding and not subtracting, because I do still like cereal from time to time. Even just as I don't like it for breakfast for some reason because I need something a little bit more filling. But sometimes as a snack, what I do instead of having just regular milk, I have like a protein shake that I like the taste of,
Yeah,
and I have my cereal in it, and actually it makes it more filling than just having it with regular milk. So
that's a
that's
good idea.
yeah. So
Yeah,
that's a good
that
one. And also it really you can really see what difference having like the 30 gram of protein or whatever makes compared to having like I don't know how much protein does I have like Fairlife, which is like a higher protein milk, but
oh,
I don't
Fairlife is so good. It's
yeah,
so
but like
good.
regular milk doesn't have like that much like yeah, it doesn't have that much for the amount that you would use for cereal, I guess is what I
Right.
wanted.
Yeah, right.
So
Um,
go ahead.
s- I heard somebody say, you nobody has ever accidentally hit their protein goal. Like if they're, like nobody has never accidentally been like, oh man, I had 150 grams of protein today. Like, how did I do that? And
Yeah.
like, that if it, I mean, I'm sure it does happen to some people, but not most people.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about protein even before continuing, just because that's such an important topic that I feel like now people talk about it a lot, but I really don't know if that's because our Instagram feeds are different and more about like coaches and fitness and things like that, which is why
Yeah.
we hear it a lot. So I don't really know how much people know about it. But why is protein, besides making you fuller and keeping you fuller for longer, why is protein that important and how much should we have?
Oh man.
Rabbit hole.
Yeah, right. I was like, how do we get here? Um, I think the recommendation, I forget what the latest recommendation is. I want to say zero point 0.8 to 1.2 grams per kilogram or per pound of body weight. That's it.
Yeah, per
Yeah.
pound of technically, I think it's per pound of lean body mass because if somebody
Is
has a
it
lot
lean
of
body
weight to
mass?
lose, that would be like a lot of protein. But
That would be.
basically, the weight that you would be at your, I guess, can we say ideal weight without being canceled? I don't know. Um, I
This
guess
is your podcast, man. I'm
you
just here.
um, I'm thinking like just think of yourself as like your goal where that you want to be, and that's a good indication, I would say,
Mm.
of what you can use. Or if you don't have that much weight to lose, you can use a 0.8 to 1.2 gram per body weight, and that would just make it simpler. But the recommend like the FDA or something recommendation is a lot lower than that. So that's just basically what they give is to survive. But this, especially if people are like lifting weights, I would say like
Mhm.
definitely like this one. But um yeah, so like how can they get more protein in?
Oh, well, things that we were just talking about. Like you said, you change out your milk, right, for the higher protein milk.
Yeah.
People do protein shakes. Obviously, first and foremost, you want to get more of those complete proteins from Whole Foods.
Yeah.
The chicken, fish, whatever meat you eat. And if you don't eat meat, obviously there are alternatives.
Yeah.
Um, but I think people too get like really hung up on like the chicken and rice. Like that's like very much the classic like
Yep.
healthy meal, right? Um, and it just so happens that my husband and I do eat a lot of chicken and rice. I will tell you that.
I don't
But
like rice, so I managed to step
oh,
away from this stereotype just because of that. But
you don't like
I love it.
rice?
No, I don't
No,
like
no
brown
kind
rice.
of rice. Like
Well, like coconut rice, I do enjoy it. I think it was mostly from, to be honest, I feel like it might have come from some sort of disordered eating when I was a child, and I was told that rice was bad, and I kind of like
um,
ended up not liking. So now I don't have a problem like eating it. I'm not gonna be having those thoughts, but I just
yeah,
ended up like liking, like I love bread, but I just ended up liking something else instead, and just not
right,
getting in the habit of it. But yeah,
right.
you do your rice and chicken.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess more for me, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But you don't have to do that. That's just something that we enjoy doing, and we like chicken thighs, we like chicken breasts. I don't eat as much salmon as I would like, but that's high in protein too. And these are just meat ways, but there's the little tuna packs. Those are awesome. Those are 70
Yeah.
calories and have like 19 grams of protein or 17 or something like that. Like those are awesome.
Yeah, tuna is great. I know some people just hate the taste, but like it's actually like very like low calories and has a lot of protein. Greek yogurt also some people could add.
Oh,
Man, I
yep.
can
Sub that
mention.
out for sour cream.
Yeah, yeah. And lots of recipes are using that for like dips and stuff. They're adding like other stuff to it, like
Yeah.
sometimes like ranch powder and they add it or something. So like so many different alternatives that you can have for sure. Um, and like you mentioned, like it doesn't have to be like a certain like it doesn't have to be like one specific one. Something that I even like that you mentioned was that you like chicken thighs or chicken breast. A lot of people think, oh, you would have to eat like chicken breast and broccoli or something. But no, just because chicken thighs are a little bit higher in calories doesn't mean that you can't have that on a cut. Like, can absolutely. I think I'm having that tonight.
They're good. I mean, they're tasty.
Yeah, exactly. So now also like going back more so on track because I got distracted by protein. Um, So we were talking about BC. I think there was something else that I wanted to ask you before we move on. So like it was like we talked about the all nothing mindset and then oh
And
your
then
support
support
network.
system. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about why that is important and then also what if somebody doesn't have like a support system with their family and friends?
hmm So to address your first question, first of all, I want to start by saying I understand that like the support system answer is such a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason.
Yeah.
And I really, there's no, again, only speaking for myself, there's no way I could do any of what I'm doing right now without my
Yeah.
parents, my friends, my husband. I mean, like, there's just no way.
Yeah, me too.
Um, and because people really, I think in the beginning when you're starting a business, people don't very take you very seriously.
Mm.
It's very easy for people to be like, "Oh yeah, that's cool," or whatever, and that gets discouraging, or they laugh at you or they make fun of you, or you're just like, "Okay, yeah, haha, cool, have fun with your little thing," right? And that gets discouraging. Um,
Are you saying before you move on, are you saying people you know or people that you don't know on the internet?
both.
Okay.
I think and even if they're joking, right, it's still like kind of plants a little seed. And
Yeah.
you're like, oh, and then you're kind of like, can I do this? Like,
Yeah.
should I be doing this? Like, am I meant to be doing this? And like, I think it's really important to have somebody who sees your vision even when you can't see it. Because I'm telling you right now, when it's 2 in the morning and I'm feeding my kid with one arm and I'm reading emails with another arm, and it's 2:37 a.m. and I'm, tired and whatever else, I don't see my vision then. Like, I just don't.
Yeah.
But my husband does. And he sees it even when I lose sight of it for a second. And never once has my husband been like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" Or like, "Are you sure this is right?" Like he's never once made a comment. It's always been like, "You got this." And um just there's been a couple times where it's like, is this like the right move? And he's like, "Well, stick with it and find out."
Yeah. Yeah.
Stick with it and find out. And it really is that simple. You stick with it and you find out. So
Yeah,
that's
and
what,
sometimes you just need one person like that
yeah.
has your best interest in mind, but also allows you to do something that is not like comfortable and actually even pushes you to do something that's not comfortable. And that applies for people trying to lose weight or just trying to work on themselves too. I feel like losing weight is just like so like common thing that people struggle with in terms of like finding a support network because I feel like we could go into again the rabbit hole of like body positivity or things like that. But now even when mentioning sometimes losing weight, I know when I was like 60 pounds overweight, or 60 pounds heavier, 70 actually now. But a lot of people at that point, even though my closest loved ones, my family, my parents were telling me the truth about how you're not eating very healthy. Like I wasn't at all. I was just kind of eating all kinds of like non-nutritious food at the end of the day. Like my health was not prioritized at all. And then it also ended up with the weight gain. But other people who were just kind of like thinking about it like aesthetically, they were just like, you're perfect the way you are. But was I when I really had trouble like going up the stairs, like a flight of stairs without like panting or like things like that? Like sometimes like those people kind of being in your corner for your like have your best interest in mind are also going to be here. Sometimes they give you like hard truths too. But when I was on that journey, then they stuck with me when I had like struggles and things like that, which inevitably is going to happen when you're trying to lose weight. It's going back a little, back up a little, the days like that. Again, like those other people that told you were perfect where you are sometimes, or they were telling you, oh, like, good for you for starting the business. Great. Sometimes they are just kind of like they're not right here with you. They don't know all the struggles, so they're just kind of like giving their opinion from very far away.
Yeah.
um but that one person that you need again both to tell you when you're trying to do something, like when you're trying to like stay away from this second bowl of ice cream, sometimes it's better to have that person also keeping you a little accountable with you being like, yeah, you've had a little already today and you have those goals too. So maybe like, think about it versus somebody else who's just gonna be like, you're fine, like you just eat the ice cream every day. So
Yeah. That's interesting. Do you think the people that nope, that's not what I mean. Do you feel like people in general like perceive you differently than they did when you said you were 70 pounds heavier?
absolutely. In so many different ways. One, I feel like I have lost some friends trying to now now being a fitness coach because sometimes when I give hard truths about that, other people who are more of like, no, like people should just never change and they're perfect the way you are. I do get backlash from some of those people.
Mhm.
Whereas they would always be, I would say, super nice to the fat girl because it's kind of just like I was like funny, the funny girl, the fat girl. But now that, and I guess I could say anything at that point. Now that I am a lot leaner, I feel like what I can say has been limited by a lot. It's kind of like I'm thinking of how white men have no say in anything at all. Everything they say could be used against them. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like as I'm getting kind of like more towards like my like what I wanted to look like and what I was telling people I was working towards, even if they were saying, yeah, you doing great or whatever. But now when I'm just talking about why that was important for me and how other people also might do that, now it's like, well, you can't say that.
Interesting. Yeah, I never would have even thought about that,
What about that?
honestly.
Yeah, it's interesting. And also the perks definitely outweigh like the drawbacks. For example, um just like the confidence that came with it too. And it doesn't come automatically, but that's also why it's something that I kind of try to teach my clients to go through at the same time, the confidence aspect that goes with it.
Yeah.
But just knowing that I could do hard things, it definitely brought like some level of confidence. Also just something simple, honestly. Like dating is easier. Again, with that confidence as well. But realistically, because I wanted to date somebody who was fit and who was for healthy and things like that. So when I had very different habits, it just wasn't, it was clashing. Because I was eating like pizza all the time or ice cream all the time and things like that. And no vegetables, no protein. I was going to the gym, but really nutrition wasn't there versus now, I think I would just align better. So a lot of things definitely change. And people on the
Interesting.
roads are, I feel like people, strangers are nicer. That's one thing too.
When trainers are
Now,
nicer now, or they were?
strangers are nicer now
Oh,
and
strangers. I thought you said trainers. Okay.
no, strangers and like doctors are nicer, less judgmental. That's definitely, I've
Interesting.
definitely noticed that. Yeah. Like people would open, I feel like people open doors for me more than they used to do back then. It's very interesting.
Huh.
Yeah.
I'll have to think about that for a while. I'll have to chew
Yeah.
on that one.
Yeah, that's definitely like it's a whole I feel like it could be that could be a whole different like episode two of just like the changes that you expect and then the things that you don't expect to happen that actually do end up happening when you lose a lot of weight.
Mhm.
Um but yeah, either way. But I was talking about like the support system. So then what I want to ask you actually is how people can find that support system.
Oh,
Is
if
that
they don't have it, yeah.
yeah, if they don't have it kind of like as like their parents or partner, if they don't have a partner and yeah, something like
Yeah.
that.
No, I understand. I'm super blessed in that way that I have a great family and great friends and everything. So I totally get that. Okay, well, let's brainstorm. If somebody doesn't have a really great family or friend life, where can they find it? Well, I guess if I didn't have any friends or family, I would start by what do I like doing?
Mhm.
And for me, I've always been big into sports. And so then I would find other people with like interests, right? So where do those people hang out? And I would go there. And then I would start talking to people and see who I like and try to start making friends, you know,
Start
I'm
yeah,
so,
start a hobby.
yeah,
Yeah, that's totally fair. And it doesn't have to be against somebody who's also on that journey, but like just like making like those connections, those friends and
yeah,
um those accountability partners. Or sometimes I guess sometimes when you have a coach, you can have people like sometimes we have communities and stuff, so that's one thing.
that is
But
another thing.
other people, they just kind of start, and that's not for everybody, but some people just start an Instagram or something about like, hey, you guys can keep me accountable, not because of the comments, it's going to be like, you have to do this, but because I'm going to be posting about it, I'm going to stay accountable because I have something to keep
Right.
me on track, I guess. Like that's like
Yeah,
a
that too.
but
Absolutely. I
um
mean, yeah, because you know you have eyes on you, right? Um,
exactly.
yeah, I mean,
Even if somebody has two followers, still
that's two people watching you.
two people watching you. Exactly.
Or
Exactly.
even if they're not, that's two people that you think are watching you.
Yeah, yeah, that's mostly it.
Right.
But why is because I mentioned like the accountability aspect of it as well. Why is that important?
Ooh. Um, if I had a nickel for every time I said, yeah, I can do that by myself, like you absolutely can. Like every people can absolutely do things by themselves, but is it best to?
And will you also like will you stick with it?
And also, but will you, and that's not to be rude, that's just how it goes,
Yeah, absolutely.
I know after college, I played softball in college, right? And then after college, I had just had a coach for my entire life, spring, summer, fall, and then we practiced throughout the winter. I had a coach my entire life, pretty much from 5 years old to I was 20. And then got out of college and I was done playing softball. And there was nobody there to tell me to run or to lift anymore. And I didn't have hours of practice every day. And, but I did have access to a lot of food, right? And I had the ability to go to the gym as much as I was. I was single and young, and I could have known that, but I didn't. But I could have. And that's
Yeah.
kind of like my best example of why you need accountability. Like you absolutely can do it by yourself, but you will get there so much faster
Yeah.
and with the guidance of somebody else and the eyes on you.
Absolutely. The thing is the gym has always been there since the first gym started. It's been there since, I guess, minus COVID times, but it's been
Mm,
there. The food, all the different types of food have been there for you to make choices and things like that. And if somebody is really stuck in that, there's a part of it that's about the education, the knowledge, the information, but if it's just for the information, there's plenty of information everywhere. You can
yeah.
go find there's plenty of wrong information too. So that's another thing.
Oof.
Um, but for most people, what is keeping them from reaching their goals is that accountability factor. So like really, like if people are wondering, like, do I really need it? Well, if you didn't, like, and if you haven't achieved your goals yet, sometimes I ask them then like how long have you been having that goal? And for some people, and even for me before that last weight loss, it might have been years. And that's crazy when you think about it. Like if like that for people, it's been years and literally they've had the information, or even like we're talking about we have coaches or you had a coach and I have a coach right now too.
Mhm.
But then like I have the knowledge. Like I don't have all the knowledge, but like I have knowledge to lose weight. But then if I didn't have a coach, I feel like I might still not be able to do it because sometimes when the scale is going to fluctuate. For example, when it happens and then I'm just whatever knowledge I have goes out the window because I'm just like in my feelings and I
Yeah.
just want to make changes like, oh, this is not working. So instead of staying consistent, I'm like, let's just try something else. And a lot of people do that. They're like, oh, it's been a week, it's not working, let's just try something else. And they don't stick with it long enough to see any result. Whereas if they just literally had, it doesn't even have to be a coach, but it would be even better. But even that person keeping them accountable that like, hey, you've literally only been doing that for like 30 seconds. Like give yourself some time
Yeah.
and stick with it and don't just also giving up has never made anyone get any closer to their goals. So
Yeah.
um
Right.
so accountability is a big factor, I feel like, for all of us.
I also take it back to thinking of like Michael, this is a classic thing, but taking it back to like Michael Jordan having a shooting coach, like, do you like, I think he knew how to shoot, right? Like he's done it once or twice. But
That's right.
all these NBA guys, they all have coaches. And is
All
it
the
because they
pro
don't have the
everything.
knowledge? Yeah, exactly. There's coaches for every pro sport, not just that was just my example. But
Yeah.
and it's not because these guys don't know, right? They have the knowledge. It's because it's smart to have a coach in multiple facets, not just accountability, right?
Yeah. Yeah, just the guidance and everything. And again, a lot of times it's not about really like knowing what to do because a lot of people I feel like know at least the direction that they could take tomorrow to get better or to like start losing weight. It's really about doing it. At the end of the day, like just knowing or kind of having it in your mind is I wish it would do more than what it does, but at the end of the day it really doesn't.
Yeah.
It's really about doing it. So but some people tell me like, "Oh, well, no, like I just need to find the motivation for it." So what do you think about motivation and waiting for that to lose the weight or to have your to work on your business? Why don't you just work on it when you're motivated to do so?
Oh, actually, I think you can use motivation as a tool, but to rely on it, good luck. But you can absolutely use it as a tool, I think. Because I know there are some parts of the day where I'm more motivated than other times of the day. Like after like 9 p.m., I'm pretty much useless. Don't talk to me. Don't ask me any questions. Like I like like
I'm
I
in bed.
yeah, well. hopefully, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
um yeah, and but I know that my like really hyper focus, like max brain power time is between like, I don't know, probably like 9 a.m. to 11:30, 12. Like that is where when I do my best work. And so I try to schedule things like work things that I know take a lot of brain power in that time. And, with the baby and stuff, if it doesn't work out that day and I only get a couple things done in that really good time, then okay, maybe I can do other stuff throughout the day. But I'm really trying to schedule things for the times that I know where I'm most motivated.
Yeah, but why shouldn't you rely on motivation? Like how would your business look like if you only responded to your clients or made the programs when you were motivated? Or for I guess those clients, if they only made the choices to go to the gym or to like make the follow the protocols that you gave them when they were motivated.
Oh, well, it wouldn't be sustainable. It would only be sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Clients make goals when they're hyper, well, not just clients, everybody a
Yeah.
lot of times makes goals when they are hyper motivated. So I think as coaches, it's our job to create realistic goals. And like, I understand that you're not working out right now and you want to work out 5 days a week, and that is great, but we are going to make our baby steps there, right? And we are going, and because the next week you might not be that motivated anymore. And that goes back to having a coach. It all kind of ties together.
Yeah, because then we have to really think, and you're right, because then when you have a coach, because if you don't, then you will start going like 5 days a week for like a week or two, and
Right.
then all or nothing mindset again. Everything is kind of like tying back together, but
Right.
then you just stop going because you can't go 5 days a week. Whereas if you have somebody that's like, well, why don't we like what is an amount that you can realistically do? Kind of like week to week. And then some often they think about it, they're like, well, maybe like two that I know I can do, and then I can do sometimes three, sometimes four, sometimes five. Okay, then let's just do two. Let's just stick with two, and that's what you have to get. Now, if they do something like in their times, whatever, but then I want them to kind of when they have their check-in, what I would want to see is that they checked off that little thing that we worked on because that's in my mind, even if they're trying to do something else or something when on the weeks that they can't do those five or those three, I mean, I also don't want them to do 5 days a week, but let's just say sometimes they're like, I just
Right.
want to add in a day of cardio or something. I'm like, sure. But if you can't do the workouts on those days, then they know at least to prioritize, okay, I have to do 2 days a week to
Yep.
stay like, because I have this accountability partner. So at least I'm going to do that and I can't do three. So instead of doing zero, at least I'm doing the two. So in their mind, they're like, okay, that's checked off.
Right. Right.
I'm still keeping them going instead of again like falling back on like the nothing at all. And I actually had a client ask me why I don't have cardio in her program. Um and then that's something that then I was mentioning like at that point when you're like highly motivated, you kind of want everything you're hearing from everywhere. Like again, there's information everywhere, you just want to do everything. So like they mentioned cardio was great. Okay, they mentioned weight training was great. So I'll add that. They mentioned like we need protein. I'm gonna have all just protein, just gonna go on a carnivore diet or something. Tons of protein in my diet. They mentioned that I don't know what else. I need 10,000 steps, so I'm gonna get 10,000 steps on top of everything. And then they mentioned journaling, so I'm gonna journal as well and read
Yeah.
50 pages a day.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
then you
Right.
don't really know what you have to focus on. Whereas if you just literally start with like a small thing, pick anything, just start with something small, then we can add on later. And yeah, that's like with motivation, the thing is that it's gonna be here what, like 50% of the time, depending on the period. Sometimes it could be like 20% of the time that you're motivated if you have a really, really like busy schedule that I guess you have right now. Like how often do you say you're motivated to work out? Let's just say that.
Oh, well, sometimes a trick question because sometimes I'm often motivated, but I just can't. And I don't mean
Mm.
like I can't because I just mean I can't in that time window that I feel motivated to do it.
Yeah.
Because my baby needs me
Yeah.
or there's appointments or whatever it may be. I'm doing something for the business. We have multiple meetings a week, whatever it may be. And so for example, I used to be a morning workout gal. My husband and I would often wake up at 4:40 in the morning. We'd go to 5 a.m. CrossFit. And let me tell you, we would wake up at 4:40 and we would get up out of bed at like 4:52. Like thankfully CrossFit was like right next to our, like literally right there. And so we were just like basically there. But anyway, we were morning workout people. I was a morning workout person and I can't be right now. And
Yeah.
that's okay. And sometimes I'm working out, doing a half-hour workout at 9 at night, and that's okay,
Yeah.
you know?
So then how do you still do it so kind of like how do you manage the times where you're motivated and want to do something but can't, to still fit something in as like a habit and the discipline that you have for it. Because technically for you, like again, you're a personal trainer, so the motivation might be higher to work out than like for other people.
Yeah,
Um, but just not when you're literally like 9 p.m. when you're like tired and you've already had a long day and you know
right.
you have to fit it in.
Right. The best example I can give for that is my spiritual life. So I want to read the Bible every day,
Yeah.
right? That is something that I want to do. Um, I kind of wasn't doing I was doing it there for a while, then I wasn't, and I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna start reading a chapter every day. And I'm like, and then I was like, I'm gonna listen to multiple sermons a week. And I was like, pause. I did like, so what I started doing every day when I wake up. The very first thing I do when I look at my phone is read the verse of the day. And that's the habit. That's it. That's my habit every morning when I wake up. That's my one habit. Now, sometimes I read the verse of the day and I'm like, oh, you know what? That's a really good verse. Like, let me read that passage,
Yeah.
and I'll read the passage. And so sometimes I read a passage a day.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'll read a passage and I'll be like, you know what? I need to listen to a sermon on that because that is awesome. And then I'll listen to a sermon while I'm feeding my kid or whatever. And so sometimes I'll listen to 2 to 3 sermons a week in addition to church on Sunday just because I read the verse of the day, right?
Yeah.
So that's the best. I forget the question, but that's the best example I have of that.
I forgot the question too. But I'm terrible at this. But that's a really good point because if you told yourself you had to like do the whole thing every day, you might not even have started to read to read anything at all. When you
Right.
get up, you're like, I don't have time because you said you might like, did you say read a verse and then listen to a sermon? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I might.
Okay. So like if you didn't have time to do both or like read it the verse and the passage and listen to the sermon on those days you might just have not done anything and then it's just something that you forget,
Right.
but because you started you kind of like trigger this first action, I guess,
Mhm.
of okay, that's my base thing that I'm gonna do. It's simple, it doesn't take a lot of time. I'm just gonna read that first. Then you actually got more done because on other days you were able to you're like, okay, I do have time to do a little bit more. So then you
Right.
did a little bit more, which is awesome. So I guess my question that I really want to ask about that is like how should people do that? So like how do they do that like baseline kind of habit, and how many habits maybe should they have for like that minimum things that they have to do, and then should they just stick with that, can they add more, how much more can they add, and the expectations for that.
Yeah. So you can't scale anything that you don't track, right? We learn about that all the time. So you can't scale anything that you don't track. So for me, for my clients, I have them the first week that we work together, they do everything normal.
Yeah.
They don't change anything. They do everything normal, but they track it. And there's no judgment like when
Yeah.
they're like logging their food or anything. We're just getting like a straight baseline of what they're doing. Um, and then at the end of the week, we'll talk and I'll say, okay, um, let's say somebody's drinking like a cup of water a day, right? And I'll say, okay, and what if we just add another cup of water to it? So do you think you could drink 2 cups of water a day. And I think most people would say, yeah, I could probably drink an extra glass of water a day.
Yeah.
And so we start with there. We start there and we slowly each week move our way up, right? Because if I were to just come in and say, okay, we got to, get your
Like a
gallon jug
gallon.
ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, get your like they're gonna be miserable. They're gonna be peeing every 5 minutes,
Yeah.
and they're not gonna like me very much. So
At some point, I feel like they will have days where they don't like me very much, but hopefully not to that extent.
yeah, right,
I'm
right.
thinking of programming. I'm like those who want to like build like a really nice spot. You're gonna have days where you don't like me very much in your
Yeah,
workouts. I'm just gonna say
right,
that.
right. Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
but that's very true. So how many habits do you give them? Do you give them like one habit a week or like
Oh, yeah.
two or 10?
I usually make a max of two. I usually do 1 to 2 habits. I find that that's trackable. You can typically be more consistent. And if we were to focus on 10, it would defeat the whole purpose and be essentially what we just talked about.
Yeah, exactly. It's very much similar to when we do a to-do list, and I made a to-do list for me today. I do it every day. What happens is just like 7 out of the 10 tasks just goes on to the next day again because I haven't been able to complete it. So when you actually focus on like what's the and that's the thing when you have all kind of like because it's often like bullet points of things. So then you don't really know what to prioritize. And you're just kind of like pushing things to the next day when those should have been prioritized, maybe. And in that case, you know what is the most important at that moment for that person. They're like, okay, if we can only work on one habit or two habits, let's put those first. And then we can add more, or you can add more if you want during the week. Like if they do end up like drinking more water, perfect. Or they end up drinking water plus getting more sleep or something, perfect. But at least if they can't do all of it, they know what they can just like check off for the day, and that would be like a win. Because a lot of people really that gives them that motivation, I guess, to keep going that they
Right.
need every week is that little win that often it's not like a big win, but it's literally just something like I drank my water this week
Yeah.
and that's what my coach needed me to do.
Yeah. It's momentum, right? It's like whatever way your momentum's going. And you're just kind of like, if, when I used to train martial arts, he talked about 2 sides of the mountain. And it can only, if there's a rock at the top, it's either going to go one way or the other. Right.
Oh,
And so every time you do a small habit that you accomplish, you're just kind of pushing the rock just a little
yeah.
bit, just a little bit. And
Yeah.
then it keeps gaining momentum, right? And then you're crushing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and there was one more thing because I feel like we're already going on the hour. So I'm wondering if I should ask you. I guess I'll ask you that one last question and then we can wrap up quickly after and I'll um get you to plug yourself. But the last thing I really wanted to ask again for you, like I wanted to ask you personally, is how do you really like balance your personal life with so for with your goals in general, not just kind of like your business, but just your goals that you have
Hmm.
and your it would be like as a mom, but also it could be how do you a goal of yours could be like spending quality time with your husband too, while you have to both take care of the baby or things like that. Or
Yeah.
for other people, it could be social gatherings sometimes and losing weight don't go hand in hand a lot of times in people's minds. So
Oh, yeah.
it's
Hmm.
kind of the route I'm also thinking. So what tips do you have and how do you do it for your whatever goals it is and just your personal life, whatever that looks like to you to manage those?
So as far as like the word balance, I kind of don't believe in that personally. That's not like really a thing. It's
Yeah.
like it's a lovely idea. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. It's a
Yeah.
lovely idea, but kind of what we were just
Sure.
talking about in the meeting before, you kind of go through seasons, right? Like right
Yeah.
now, I know we're in a really busy season, and like earlier, my house isn't going to be super clean probably, and I'm probably not going to spend as much time with my husband as I like. And
Yeah.
sometimes, like, he's going to have to put the baby to bed. Well, he puts the baby to bed often because that's like their little routine. And
Awesome.
that's time where I get to work. And
Yeah.
sometimes I'll put the baby to bed. It just you're kind of wherever you're giving, you're kind of taking from somewhere else, and vice versa. Um,
Absolutely. that's
Yeah.
very important for people to understand that we can't have numerous and different goals. And technically you can do anything you want, but you can't just do everything, and especially not everything at once.
Right.
So then again, in your case, you're really like prioritizing kind of everything, or you're working everything around the fact that you literally have a newborn. How old is he? Like how many weeks is he?
He's 3.5 months now.
Like that's
So,
like I thought new moms just counting weeks all the time. So
no, I honestly, how many weeks is he?
like
Is he
14.
15? Is he 14 or 15 weeks? Something like
Yeah.
that.
So like
Yeah.
very, very young. So definitely like cannot do anything by himself. I mean, like
No.
very young.
Right.
But then even you're saying your house being clean, I was like, it's probably not going to be clean for years. Like even
No, yeah,
toddlers.
I think pretty much for the next 18 years, it's pretty much slated to be a disaster. Yeah. And which is
Uh,
fine. Like,
my
that's
mom might tell you that it keeps going sometimes.
yeah, right. Yeah, I can hear my parents in the background saying 18 years. Like,
Yeah, you
right.
wish, but you'll
Right.
see.
Right.
Um, but same for people who, again, we're taking the example of like weight loss. That's not going to be a forever phase, especially if you actually do it, kind of do it well, and like don't just go back and forth on that wagon, just trying to find a super quick fix. If you actually like put that time to prioritize that aspect of your life, it's not going to be a forever thing. At some
Mhm.
point, you'll be able to enjoy your social gatherings more because you'll have more knowledge and like how to, because we're not just coaching to cut, we're coaching people to like live and be able to incorporate things and really like that maintenance after they're done, to be able to live normally without gaining that weight back. So you'll be able to do that after, and it's going to be less sacrifices in that aspect, and also
Right.
new habits that you build, so it's going to be easier in that aspect. But you can't just focus on all the goals at once. Like it just, that's just gonna drive you crazy and be overwhelming.
Yeah, I think so I started my business when I was 5 months pregnant, and um I knew that that was a goal that I had, and I also knew that if I didn't do it before I had a baby, I probably wasn't going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just me personally. People do it all the time. I mean, again, people are busy all the time. I think of a lady that I went to nursing school with, and she was a single mom of 5 kids, and she was in the same nursing program I was, and it was hard. It was very, very hard. Nursing school is hard, ask anybody. Um, and I just think of her sometimes, and I'm just like, like she did that. Like, why can't I just do this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely. And another friend of ours, Elise, has like 4 little boys or something.
yeah, yeah,
And is
she,
doing it. So I might get her on the podcast at some point. I'll ask her too.
yeah,
But it's like people like like you said since the beginning of this episode, like everybody's busy kind of in their own ways too.
yeah,
Some people might not have kids, but they're in medical school and have like something else on top, or like are in
right,
medical school but also need to work too. I don't know, can they work when they're in medical school? But they need to find a
yeah,
way to pay their bills for some reason, and it's just like
right.
a lot adding up. But yeah, kind of like for you, if you were starting right now, that would be too much to start to do at the same time. So yeah, you kind of
I don't even know that I'd say that. I think I would probably just be less motivated. That's going back
that.
to that, you
So I
know?
guess we could use motivation to like get us started
Yeah,
if we
I
know
mean,
that we
yeah,
have
or in my
something.
case, delusion, 5 months.
We love that.
You
TikTok,
know,
if
but
you listen to anything from TikTok, is that it's okay to be delusional. So
yeah,
we'll
well, you just need a couple seconds of bravery, right? And I was just like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And
but
then,
as long as you know you'll be able to either have that accountability partner to stick with it after,
right,
or that you'll be able to still have little things that you can do when you're not motivated. Because the first 30 seconds of starting anything is great, of starting a business, of starting a page in social media, of like literally anything, like trying to go on like a cut or trying to build muscle. Like it's the first week is great. And then after, when the first hurdle comes, you need to be able to find a way, if that's something that you really want to do, to then not give up on it.
right.
Because then just never make progress on anything. But But thank you so much. We went on like a wide array of different like
Yeah, sorry about that.
topics. No, I definitely go on tangents so much, so it was definitely not my fault. But I wanted to get your insight on so many different things when we were talking about like habits, protein, kind of like again, like being busy and all those different things. And I'm really happy that I asked you all those questions because that was super valuable. So now I'm gonna open the floor to you to tell us where we can find you and basically if somebody wants to work with you, tell us just a little bit more if you have, or tell us again who kind of your clients usually are, and what you can help them with. And then again, just kind of your links, I guess. I'll put everything in the
Yeah.
show notes too.
Yeah, so I typically work with healthcare workers, or more specifically nurses, but really healthcare workers. I help them lose weight, tone up. We do that in a span between 3 months and a year, really depending on their goals. Um, it, each plan that I do is customized to the client and their needs. So everybody's different. Everybody gets their own plan. No two plans look the same, right? Um, so that's who I work with. I could be found on Instagram. My handle is at Kendall_JustFit. My company's name is Justified Fitness, and that's it.
Yeah, and one thing I would say, like if they're listening, I'm sure people are listening and they're like, "Oh, I really like her vibe, and like I really want to check that out." Do you also have an application form that I could put in
Yeah,
the show
yeah,
notes? You could.
yeah, absolutely. I can get that over to you. It's also on my Instagram page.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, I'll also put it in the show notes if you want to work with her. Because again, like with a coach too, it's kind of like you're drawn to that person. So if you're like listening to her voice, like seeing her, and you're like, huh, she looks very calm. She looks very like I love her vibe. So definitely like apply to work with her. Or even something else that I would say about you that I noticed is that you're the most supportive person I know. Um so like even on things like for other coaches, like in our we have like a little group of coaches that are friends. So she's always gonna be like commenting or kind of like doing like liking or kind of like always being like super supportive, which really helps sometimes even for us coaches. So I can only imagine how supportive you are as a coach. So
Oh,
definitely
thank you.
that's something that people are like struggling with and they don't have that support network. Well, that we are talking about earlier. Well, I feel like you'd be like their best, like their biggest fan. And at the same time, I'm sure you'll be able to give them a little kick out the butt if they need to.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
But yeah, again, thanks so much. Do you have anything else you want to add at the end or
No, I
I
mean,
think
I actually really enjoyed this, so thank you.
yeah, I hope that was fun for you too, because you definitely provided tons of value. And so thanks once again for coming on and being here and having a fun little time with me. And thanks everybody else for watching or listening.
Great. Thank you.